This is written by Murphy, and I'm back again for another book review. Today I'm reviewing Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. His true story and scholarly book about psychology. It was written in 1946, published in 1946. And Viktor Frankl survived the Nazi concentration camp. He was a psychologist. He actually died in 1997. He was a psychologist, and he went into the concentration camps as a Jewish man and a doctor, went into these camps with this background of studying psychology and survived. He did not expect to go in there. He was in the middle of doing his scientific work, his research, and in fact, when he went into the camp for the first time, when he got off of the train, he told the guards, "Here is my manuscript. Please preserve this. It's worth something." And they laughed at him, thinking, there are many precious things that will not survive this camp. Whew, I'm going to be honest. I started reading this book again. I've read it at least 4 times, probably more. I started because I was feeling pitiful and oppressed in my life a couple of weeks ago. I was like, everything sucks. And I thought, come on, get a hold of yourself. Pay attention. What are you living through? So I thought this would be a great time to revisit Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, because his stories of being in the concentration camps, the first part of the book, are so visceral and so real. They hit me like, this is what it's like. This is what it's like to be in these horrible conditions, to be starving to death, to be in fear of your life, both from the shadow of the gas chambers that are right there. They knew what was happening, to be cruelly treated like a subhuman being, and also to be starving to death. Like, that will give me some perspective on my pity party. I don't have it as bad as that. But let me tell you, it's not just a true life horror story, although it could be, because it was horrible and it's very shocking to listen to these stories, and it's very moving. But he doesn't stay there. Let me see. He took his time there. Now, like I said, it was published in 1946. Dang! This guy just popped out of the concentration camp, wiped off the dust of the ashes, I guess, got a little bit of soup in him, and started writing this gorgeous book. This amazing, insightful book. He created a school of psychology that he called logotherapy based on his experiences. And this school of psychology is it's that we must fulfill the meaning of the life. We have to fulfill the meaning of our life, the life that circumstance creates for us. We don't have control over that. And he talks about the circumstances he found himself in. He talks about the thoughts that he went through. He talks about the other people that are living through this, himself, his fellow inmates, his fellow prisoners, the prisoners who had been elevated to guards, the Nazi guards, all this levels of humanity in various circumstances, in hard work, in illness, in trying to get out of doing hard work, trying to survive, watching each other choose to die. Whew, oh my gosh. These are visceral stories of horror and the mortal fear, both of the immediate death that would come from the gas chamber and the slow death that comes from the starvation and cruelty that they were in, and the hope, as he watched people die from losing hope. So he's really aware. And it gave him a unique perspective on what it means to fulfill your life's meaning. He says that the only things we have are choice and our responsibility. We can make our choices and we can take our responsibilities in the midst of the circumstances life provides. Ooh, yeah, that's a splash of cold water. He wasn't pure. It wasn't like he was saying, well, I'm just a good person and I'm full of knowledge and excellence. No, I couldn't find the quote, but I remember it. He said, those who were in the concentration camp knew that the best of us did not get out. People made scrambling choices to get the extra bread, to get the easier time of it, to jiggle themselves in line so they wouldn't be the ones chosen for the gas chamber. Oof. He said the best of us didn't make it out. That's real. But he kept observing life. He didn't give up on the person that he was. He was a person that did the work to become a doctor and a psychologist, and he kept observing. He had lost his manuscript. Somebody else took it, maybe for toilet paper. But he found ways of making notes to himself to keep his mind curious and to give himself meaning in what he was doing. It is very gripping. It challenges me to face my own suffering with some perspective. You know, when I was feeling oppressed and I picked up the book, I knew I wasn't really that oppressed. It wasn't that bad. And I could take responsibility for my own decisions and set myself straight, give myself some perspective. Let's see. I will always have something to get from this book. Like I said, I've read it 4 times. It reminds me, now Viktor Frankl was Jewish, and he also once found a Jewish prayer, which gave him a lot of comfort in the camps. He found somebody who had written a Jewish prayer, and he kept it. Well, I remember the books in Psalms, the chapters in Psalms that King David, who was also having a tough time, he was often on a run for his life as people were trying to assassinate him. He was in war, and he would wail and moan about the trials he was in. And as he talked through and says, woe is me, things are bad, I am being oppressed on all sides, I am being attacked on all sides, but he would find his way back to getting himself straight and getting some perspective on himself. Yeah. This book does something similar to me. Get myself straight, get some perspective, figure out what I can do, the choices that I can make, the mindset I can strive for, and put aside the woe is me. He has a marvelous quote. There are a bazillion marvelous quotes, but here is one. Now remember, this was in World War II. Since Auschwitz, talking about struggling for and clinging to meaning in one's life, which is the title of the book, right? He says, since Auschwitz, we know what man is capable of. And since Hiroshima, we know what is at stake. Well, those are some really sobering historical events. Well, we're not in those times. But given the things that are happening right now, at the end of 2022, it feels a bit nostalgic, almost like nostalgic historic horror. And I'm thinking, in the terms of American history, we had a horror here in our shores, the Civil War. There was a lot of death and a lot of nasty living circumstances, nasty war horror experiences in the Civil War. Civil War ended in 1865, and the time from 1865 to 1944 when World War II ended. That's 80-ish years. And from 1944 to 2022, it's about 80-ish years. A similar time frame. Just think about that at this moment. And as I read his book and his experiences in the horrors of his war, his history, I am moved not to give in to meaninglessness. Meaninglessness will always be a wolf waiting to devour me. I won't give in to it. He talks about the people who, as is often the case in prison, cigarettes are a currency. So people would get cigarettes and hoard them and trade them for things such as food or easier work detail. But when a person gives up on the meaning of their own life, gives up on their struggle, they will smoke their own cigarettes. They will stop keeping them. I don't want to smoke my cigarettes. My life has meaning. I choose to believe in my own value and my future. Not going to give up on it. Even when I feel horribly oppressed, not going to give up on it. And I will struggle for the meaning in my life that I believe in. Viktor Frankl reminds me there is a purpose. There is a meaning in many layers. There will always be meaning in my struggle and in my life and how I choose to live it and the responsibility that I take and how I live out the meaning that my circumstances provide to me. I really liked this book. I'd like to know what you think.